Hello and welcome back to On the House. Today we have a special guest, Jack Porter, founder at BirdDog. Welcome, Jack. Great to have you here, mate. How you been keeping? You well?
Good. Good. Thanks for having me, Joe. It's exciting.
Yeah, it's awesome, mate. Great to have you here. So let's start off with signals. I want to talk about your banner actually on LinkedIn, and it says intent data is bad, and signals close deals. So your words. What is the difference, and why are signals better?
Well, actually, that one's a little toned down from what we had on there before, which was much more aggressive. Um, put simply, I think intent data was promised to be very cool, and I think what a lot of teams have learned after spending, I mean, I've heard as much as 250,000, 500,000 on 6 cents and equivalent tools. It just doesn't produce results, right? If you're running a true enterprise motion or even a mid-market motion, it's like, all right, someone at a 40,000 person company search something. It's like, was it the intern? Was it the CEO? I don't know. And I mean, I was even texting with someone last night and they're like, I've not gotten one deal from this after using it for a year. Not one. And so for us, we saw that as a huge opportunity and really think kind of signals are the next big thing in that space.
Nice. I saw you did a post recently with Six Sense and you clipped like part of their blog post or something, and they were kind of slating on intent data as well. Um, so it's like signals are kind of where everything's at. How should we be approaching signals? Should we be um, looking for the signal first and then determining if they're ICP fit, or the other way around? Does it matter? Like, can you talk us through how teams should be approaching using signals in their like workflow?
Yeah. So I think the best place to start is like defining what a signal is versus intent, right? So intent data, which I think a lot of people are familiar with, is using web traffic to say, hey, someone at this company is searching something. They do it through a series of like IP lookups, and the technology doesn't really matter, but it's important to know that they don't de-anonymize who is searching, right? The purpose of signals is to say, okay, we can't really rely on intent. There's nothing beyond a ping on our IP address for this company to say, hey, this is all they searched, right? Signals take news articles, press releases, earnings calls. People take LinkedIn posts, earnings notes from like the investor reports, you name it, right? These kind of hard data sources and say, hey, is there anything interesting in here that I can use for my sales process, right? It's essentially research. It's the process we've all been running for research, but doing that every day and looking for new information that could potentially lead to a sale. And so that's kind of the difference between intent and signals. Intent is web traffic, signals are hard data sources that you can actually point to and say, hey, the COO from this company said this. I can see their quote right here. And so as you think about kind of using that and whether you go ICP first or you go signals first, I think you have to go ICP first, right? Because I mean, for us, I could sell to a lot of sales teams, but I only want to really sell to the best ones. And there's signals on all of them, right? There's signals every day. So you don't need to be worried about like, hey, we just need to set up a big broad search and hope that we catch some signals. What most people find is when they upload like even 200 accounts, they're going to get tons of signals. They're going to get more signals than they ever would have imagined. They're going to be like, oh my gosh, I didn't know all this was out here. So I would start ICP first, really tightly defining that, and then running that signals process on top of it to say, hey, what are the best 10, 20, 30, 40 accounts to go after this month, this quarter, this year, and using signals to help that prioritization effort.
That's interesting that you say that you still put ICP first, because I've spoken to other people and they've said like truly signal first, but I kind of in my head thought, yeah, you obviously want it. So that's really interesting that you say that. And just a bit of a detour, like because I want to know how you got into signals, and obviously you're working in finance. How you met? I know I've seen. I think I saw a picture in your room, University of Michigan. So just how did you get into signals? Like you were working in finance, you were pulling crazy as you're demoing in your car. Like what how did you get into the space, and what was the trigger point to actually going, let's go all in on Bird Dog?
Yeah, I didn't think I'd be running demos from my car in a parking garage, but you got to do what you got to do. And I guess, when Noah and I graduated from Michigan, that's where I met my co-founder. I ended up going into finance. I worked down in Atlanta, typical kind of 9 to 5 job in a cubicle, like the whole 9 yards, like completely gray. Um, and I was just like, I'm kind of bored. Like I went home, 5, 6, 7, 8 o'clock, and I was like sitting there. I'm like, I don't want to watch Netflix. I don't want to like scroll TikTok. I'm like, I want to do something else. And so Noah at the time, when he graduated, he was running a hedge fund, like most college kids are, and decided to start a tech company to kind of support his hedge fund. And so I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting. Like, you need a hand, Noah. Like, I'm honestly just bored. Like, can I help you for free? Like, I don't want any equity. I don't want money. Like, I'm just bored. I want to work on something. Uh, and so, long story short, we started launching that hedge fund product. It was essentially what BirdDog is now, but for investors. And we were saying, hey, you're going to find news before it hits the Wall Street Journal. You'll be the first to all these investment ideas. Sounds really cool. Didn't work at all. Like we couldn't sell it to a customer for $1. I had like dozens of sales calls. I'm getting on the phone. I'm like, hey, we have this $20 a month plan. I'll give it to you for $1. Will you buy? And everyone's like, no. I'm like, okay, this is not working. So we had two sales guys right as we're about to close the platform come to us and they're like, hey guys, like we're using it for prospect research. I'm like, what is a prospect? I don't know what you're talking about. Like, what is an AE? You're an SDR? Like, what do you do? Uh, and so we ended up asking a bunch of questions. They're like, "Oh yeah, we'll pay you $50 tomorrow to build us this feature." I'm like, mind's blown. I'm like, "We're in. We're doing it." Uh, and so, long story short, we interviewed a bunch of salespeople. We said, "Hey, we think we're on to something here. What do you think?" Everyone just kept saying like the hardest problem in sales right now for us is figuring out how to cut through all the noise. Right? There's a million cold email tools, LinkedIn automation tools, even cold calling tools now that can automate. How do I cut through the noise? And the best kind of sellers that were still crushing their quota, pulling in, crazy commission checks, we're all saying, hey, we take the top 20 to 30 accounts in our ICP, we figure out what those are, and we just hammer those until we win those deals, right? And so we were like, oh, maybe there's something there, building a tool to help sales teams do that. And so that's what BirdDog has now evolved in today. It's like find your best accounts at the right time and have all the intel to win that deal.
Wow. Okay. So can you talk us through how this works in your platform? So, finding the best accounts and then what yeah, how sales reps are actually using it to break into, because it sounds like you're helping them break into those accounts they've already kind of pre-listed. Is that right?
Yeah, so we'll connect your CRM, a couple thousand accounts usually is what most teams will have. Okay, what are the best deals that you have sitting there right now? Is it a closed lost opportunity that has had a bunch of new signals come in on it? Is it a current customer that has a potential expansion? Is it a customer you had one demo with 6 months ago and now they're throwing off a ton of signals, right? That's kind of the easy low hanging fruit is we'll take your CRM and like, let's go find some opportunities. But the best part about the platform is we'll train a model based on the companies that you're winning deals with. We'll say, hey, you're winning a bunch of deals with this kind of company. Let's go find all the similar examples like that and then deliver those to you as well. So we'll say, hey, you aren't looking at this account. You haven't seen this account. You don't even maybe even know the name of this account, but they have like a new leader in the last 60 days. They're talking about a product that you guys can help them build. They're using some very specific technology that you guys can only help with, right? Like really narrowing it down based on multiple signals and saying this is a really good opportunity for these reasons. And then doing that kind of every day so you're always tracking the best opportunities.
Oh, amazing. So you're basically giving the best signal. It's right prospects at the right time, but you're leaving the message down to them. You're basically like they get pinged in Slack, and you're like, you guys now do that. There's no because they're so hot. Essentially, you don't want to be doing automation anyway. It wants to be fully manual. So you are just empowering with them with right prospect, right time. Um,
Yep.
and the other thing as well, I was thinking is like, do you if you've got I guess a lot of it depends on how your product works as well, because if you're not picking up that many signals and from not that many places, I imagine you put in your closed one and you might get one signal back a week. But I imagine, how does your tool actually work under the hood, and like how many signals do teams kind of get on like a weekly basis,
Yeah, what I would typically say is like if you're tracking like some pretty normal signals. You aren't tracking anything crazy. Like you aren't saying like I want to know if they use this specific technology in this job posting in the last 60 days. Like some very nuanced one. If you're using like a normal kind of custom signal on like pretty normal accounts that aren't like super small, and what we define as like super small is like under 100 employees, roughly. It starts to get pretty light on signals just because they don't have a lot of news on them, that kind of thing. But let's say you're over 100 employees asking some like very pointed but not super crazy signals. You'll probably get about 10 signals a week per every 200 accounts, is what we typically see. And that's usually more than enough for a sales team. They usually actually probably get overwhelmed by the number of signals. So then we have to narrow it in more. Like, let's do more nuanced signals. And I guess under the hood, the way it works is essentially like we download every single news article, press release, earnings call, earnings report on every company you upload to the system. And we're scanning through that kind of database every day and saying, hey, Joe wants to know this very specific thing. Did it answer this question? And it's just going crazy through all those articles to try to find you the information you want. And when it finds something interesting, it essentially takes that, verifies that it does answer your question, summarizes it, and then delivers it to you with like the source, with like quotes. So it's all kind of tied back and verifiable.
That's amazing. You are delivering the best possible prospects to reach out to, essentially. And you're not considering anyone beneath that. It's like who are the best, and you're getting enough, and teams are getting enough data, which is really good. So I imagine, like, I was going to ask you, who's your ICP in terms of like sales team size, but it sounds like they're above 100 employees, like mid markets, enterprises. Is that about right?
Yeah, so we've worked with everyone from individual kind of contributors, like single person sales consultants, all the way to publicly traded organizations. The common thread between all of those is they want to do some very high touch human outreach, right? They want to make that impactful and build the relationships on the deals that matter, right? You can leave the low kind of ranked accounts for automated campaigns and spamming them, whatever you want to do there. But for those high kind of like priority deals, we're calling them personally. We're emailing them personally. I'm sending them a LinkedIn note. I'm going to the conference that they're going to. I'm visiting their office. Like whatever I have to do to win that deal, we're going to put the humans behind that. And that's the common thread between all of those customers.
Yeah, that's awesome. And the other thing, I'm like, this is totally unique for LinkedIn as well, because everyone's talking about NAN, Clay workflows. Like Clay has signals as well, but you are focusing on the best, on the tier ones, which you just don't get, which is kind of your magic sauce as well. So my next question was going to be like, who are you competing with in the signals world? Like who else is out there? What, and then why is BirdDog different? Um, but I don't know if I've already answered that question. But how else is BirdDog different? Would you say?
Yeah, so I think so. There's a lot of competing tools, right? Everyone's heard of signals. There's obviously Clay, like they have signals. ZoomInfo has some level of signals, right? Like traditional intent data is somewhat of our competitor, and they're trying signals now. Like 6sense is rebranded to Signals, which is hilarious. So there's a lot of signal tools out there. I mean, shoot, like you could even use ChatGPT to go find signals. Like if you wanted to like just search every day, like technically that's signals as well. Uh, but for any of those kind of real sales tools like a ZoomInfo or Clay, the real difference is one, the depth of information, right? We just have access to more news articles, press releases, right? We just have more data, right? And the quality of that data is higher, which again doesn't really matter to a sales team. But what it does matter is when you call them, you can actually trust that you're going to call them and say something completely insane that they go, what? No, that's not true, because that's why we win a lot of the customers from those companies. Like our most of our pipeline is actually people who've tried 6sense or ZoomInfo signals and then come to us after realizing like it didn't live up to the hopes and promises. And my favorite example was we were working with a customer who came from, I won't name which one, but it made up the fact that this prospect was looking at an RFP with the customer, and the customer is like, one, I didn't even put out an RFP. Two, I don't know who this company is. Like, just completely made up the information, and they got really mad, and that had happened a couple times to them. So they came over to us. But that's where most of our pipeline comes from, is these other kind of signal tools, and then them not living up to promises.
That's a huge one, isn't it? Like we're working with someone at the moment, and there's like this huge multi-billion-pound company who's top, and then these guys are trying to like nibble market share, and just going after like customers that may be like getting close to renewal, or just this big company haven't really like changed much, and just going after like just detecting who is like slightly dissatisfied. Is there anything you can do with signals there, or is that something else to do?
Yeah, I would say there's probably some better solutions than signals to detect dissatisfaction because it's very hard to like find that publicly available on the internet. Um, you can do some like review scraping and that kind of thing, but they usually tend to be pretty limited, right? Like most B2B buyers aren't leaving reviews on a website. Um, so that tends to be a harder signal to grab, but there are some kind of like custom solutions that you could probably get into where you could figure that out. It would be into the what I would call gray area of getting sued by LinkedIn is probably the answer there.
Yeah, I mean, Apollo and is it Seamless have been off for quite a while now, so yeah,
Yeah, not good.
clamping down. Um, so can you talk through some like typical use cases, like some examples? Maybe could be like a custom. I know you've got your first case study that you've launched as well. Just like how people are using BirdDog, like specifically, and like some of the wins people are seeing.
Yeah, so I'll give the easiest example, which is the same example I tell really everyone, because most people we talk to are salespeople, right? Like you and everyone else really probably listening to this is a salesperson in some regard. Um, and so for our own BirdDog account, what we track is a few things. So one, you're probably gonna guess this, we track if they use traditional intent data, right? Does that show up in any job postings, the website, anything like that? We track, does the company make their reps do research, right? Are their reps doing personalized outbound, right? Obviously, like I said, that's part of our ICP, makes a really good account. New sales leader is another one. Hiring a bunch of salespeople, and then does that sales leader like research? So it's kind of pairing that with our original research question, but does the sales leader in particular, can we get a name out there where they say, hey, I really like our team when they do research, or I think personalization is the future of outbound. So those are kind of five key high signals. We have a number of other ones like new CROs and expansion plans and new products and that kind of thing, but we mark those as lower in our platform. Those are more for bringing up on demo calls, bringing up in, kind of supplementary emails. But the kind of five high signals, those are the ones we look for. And so that's an example of how people are using it and just trying to flag any companies mentioning those out on the internet. And then, of course, for our own kind of closed loss deals, our own kind of closed won deals. But another example, like I think this example is really compelling because it's very simple, is we were working with a company that sold to data centers. And so looking for any data center companies announcing new builds, right? Pulling permits, and then looking for like construction manager hiring where we could even like predict, hey, even before they pull permits, like are they hiring for construction in a location that they don't have a data center? They're probably going to build one there. So helping them kind of predict where the next newest data centers are going to come up in the world. So there's everything from that to we do like marketing automations to like, I mean, like industrial like rolling pins. I don't know how, but looking at like new factory expansions and production increases and all sorts of stuff. So it's really flexible in that regard. But we define like a very thorough process during our onboarding where we help like, hey, oh, we talked to this client. They were using some similar signals in a similar industry. Here's like 10 we think you guys should track, and then working with them very closely to kind of develop those and then even train a model to kind of improve that over time.
Wow. So you're helping them during onboarding, like with defining the signals and then getting that into BirdDog. And the other thing you were saying is like obviously you're getting specific with to like the industry as well. Like we're working with someone who is in events, and obviously we care about like has there been a recent events? There might have been like dissatisfaction with the current tool. And then maybe like there's an upcoming event and they need help with, getting attendees and marketing and that sort of thing. So can you get specific with like with the industry sphere, with the kind of the general like signals that we all know, like new decision makers and stuff like that?
Yeah, yeah, very specific. And even for that example too, it's like, okay, looking at like did they just announce a bigger event than they have ever done before? Is it their biggest event where they're going to be really pressured to like make sure they fill it, make sure it's marketed well? Are they hiring for like an event planner, event manager? Like, did they talk about how their recent events went? Did it like fill up? Are they over the top saying it was sold out? Right. So like all these kind of signals that you could elicit where it's like, hey, are they selling out their events? Hey, are they hiring for roles that, we can help replace or augment? Are they talking about new upcoming events that might be their biggest, right? Or smallest, or you name it. And so you can get really custom and kind of build out what we like to call these different plays into those different signals and different kind of it's really a business initiative is what we're trying to predict here. It's like what they're trying to do strategically with their company.
We might need to have a little chat after the call because I think this could be. I just thinking about like clients and stuff. I think this could be super useful. Um, it's the lowest hanging fruit. So let's move on to like BirdDog in general and like your growth story. So I think I saw you 900% growth this year. That is crazy, crazy numbers. Congratulations. So how have you done it? And what's been your go-to-market strategy? What's worked? What's not worked? What are you going to double down on in 26? What are you going to strip out?
Yeah, so I'll say, like any good sales tool, we use a lot of our own sales tool to drive the growth.
Nice.
What we did was not traditionally what I think a lot of our customers even think of. This is kind of a new frontier for us, but we did it unintentionally, which we call like social ABM. Uh, so what that is like, I think I was looking back, I had 243 LinkedIn followers this time last year. I think today I have like 15,000 something. Uh, but that's been like our sole driver of growth is like LinkedIn posting and then LinkedIn DMs, which you could consider some level of outbound, right? We got our first couple customers through outbound and then really just went all in on what we call this like social ABM theory. And so we take our BirdDog kind of top 50, top 100 accounts, and I just go through and connect with every single decision maker at them. And then they get all of our posts as soon as they accept the kind of connection. So now they're in the system and they say, oh, I started following you guys a couple months ago and I've been seeing your posts for the last 6 months. Like, I really like it. So playing like that long game. And as the months went on, it started to grow more and more. And then those people started to come out more and more because, like, after 6 months, 12 months, 13 months, you start to feel more comfortable with the process. Hey, this company's not going to disappear out of the face of the earth. Like, that's how a lot of our business has been driven. And that's why it's accelerated so quickly as kind of the months have gone on. It's really just been like kind of flatlined to like a slow acceleration to a fast acceleration as people have gotten more comfortable, the network's got more warm, and then obviously the kind of LinkedIn social network has grown.
Yeah, it's amazing. Do you know it was funny because I was speaking to Michael Lovegrove last week and we were talking about like how to go about like selling to small TAM like 2K, and he was saying like, if you're going to be selling to small TAM, you're probably going to be selling quite a high ticket thing like 100K a year or something. So you're going to have the budget to take everyone out to dinner, and it's like it's almost like you need that in, which is taken out to dinner, but in kind of your case, it's kind of getting that connection accepted and starting the relationship off on a sort of a good note by some level of value. And then when they're in, if as long as you can create really good content that they want to see every single day or every single week, then you can just play that. You can play that long game. And then you can just reach, and then you can just figure out like, are they engaging at the right time, and then reach out. So it's like you need that in, then you need that content flywheel, and then you need that reaching out at the right moment. And it seems
Yep.
like you've tapped into that quite well.
Yeah, yeah, and we keep it really simple. Like, I don't do any sort of automations with like my LinkedIn. Like, a lot of people try that. Like, all the posts are written by me. Like, every DM. Like, I get. It's funny because like now people say, "Oh, is this AI? Like, did you send this to AI?" I'm like, "No, I typed this out to you." Like, but most people and the base expectation is that like most people are just sending AI like slop. And I think it's been really impactful for us and like for me in particular, just like building relationships is by not doing that, by like making sure we're sending everything by hand, by actually talking to people, whether it was about like their weekend plans or their love for sports, like whatever it was, like that's how we've actually driven a lot of the growth, right? Driven a lot of the relationships, driven a lot of the following and the connections and the referrals and all that stuff has been kind of going the opposite of what everyone else is suggesting, which is like automate everything.
Yeah, look, you've kind of grown 15K in a year, like, and that's kind of bringing in the most people. So I think like that's been your like key lever. Um, so I guess we need to dive deeper into LinkedIn and talking about what's your content strategy. Is it about value? Are you thinking more about what's getting the most eyeballs? Are you thinking, we're gonna have a certain ratio? What topics do you talk about? Like, yeah, break down your content strategy for us. It'd be super interesting.
Yeah, so I'll start from the beginning. So I have in my Notion, and I can even share a screenshot with you after, is like all the ideas I've ever had for LinkedIn. Like if I'm just on a walk or on a run or wherever in a call, like as soon as I get off the call, I'm like, oh, that would be a good idea, and I'll jot it down. And I just jot down like the hook or the premise of that article or that post, and that's it. And then I might use it, I might not. And then I usually batch kind of my writing into chunks. So I'll write a couple LinkedIn posts at a time. And I just scroll back through that kind of huge document with a bunch of different hook ideas, bunch of different post ideas, and just pick and choose which ones I want to do for that week. And so usually it's related to like what's been happening recently in the business, like how have a recent demo call gone, like what am I thinking about, like is there any problems I'm thinking through, and then just putting it all out there. Because I think a lot of times people try to guard or create this kind of personality where like everything's amazing, everything's awesome. And like a lot of our posts, if you read back through them, like are not that. It's like, oh shoot, I like broke a button on our website and it lost us $100,000. Or like I just screwed up 50 demo calls because like I had no idea what I was pitching, or the product was broken or slow or whatnot. And so I think we've been posting that journey over the last kind of year, and that's built a lot of the following. But it's really for us thinking through ideas is like just coming up with a bunch of different ideas, posting literally anything we want to, right? Like I don't try to guard it, I don't try to like finesse it or show off to be like this perfect kind of pitch. Um, and then trying to like keep it pretty light on the pitching content, right? Most of our content's about stories, about people we meet, about lessons we've learned, about just growing the business in general, how we're thinking about that, versus it like, hey, here's a feature dump on BirdDog. Here's why you need to buy it. Like almost very little of our content is that, and we try to keep it that way on purpose.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's interesting that you're keeping it quite authentic as well. And I guess it's quite a good long-term strategy because it's natural. You're not like pretending to be something. It sounds like you've gone pretty heavy on building in public as well. Do you think that building in public is just good for growth because it's like it makes for a good story? Do you think it like helps with signing deals as well because y- like early innovators or founders like get the grind and they want to kind of come on board and support? Do you think there's value in it from a sales side of things as well?
A huge amount of value, right? Like most of our posts are that, right? They're the building in public, they're the following the journey, right? And that's, I mean, where 99% of our business comes from is through LinkedIn in some form, whether that's a cold message or kind of someone inbounding off a post. And so we've been tracking to some degree. Like I've been like trying to mentally track like where we get the most inbounds from. And it's really consistent across like all posts, like the stuff you think like it's just a photo of Noah and I like coding in his apartment, or like, whether it's a heavy feature dump, pitch dump, product launch kind of post, it really doesn't matter what post it is. It all kind of drives the same amount of inbound. So yes, it can drive sales pretty good, even just building in public.
That's interesting. It's almost like it comes back to the thing of like it's not really just about like sometimes you get one post that gets this many leads and this many calls, but it's like you can't really measure it on a one by one. It's like that whole it's the brand you've built, the goodwill you've built, and like people might have like seen a really good post you did before, not seen you for a week or two, see your post, don't even read it, go to your website. So it's a funny one, but that's what's your current split between inbound and outbound, just out of interest?
It's now is almost all inbound.
Wow.
So in the beginning, it was all outbound, right? We had no social presence, no following, nothing. No one knew who we were, and the product honestly was pretty bad. So we drove everything through outbound, just cold emails, primarily cold LinkedIn DMs to people. And then kind of as the months have gone on, probably in the more recent months, it's gone from like maybe 95.5 to almost like 100% inbound, right? We have like so many demos. I don't even have time to sit down like and do anything. Like I just hop on calls, and then work with our current customers and that kind of thing. So most of our time now has been on the inbound side, and then just kind of fostering customer relationships and then taking demo calls.
Love it. What are your moats, do you think, as a business? Do you think, I think brand and distribution must be one, you know? I think another one might be like the date that your actual tool itself and how it works. Because it seems like you're scraping from a lot of really good places and like you're actually getting some really good data as well that's not,
Yeah,
other tools don't have.
yeah, I think that the data is the number one thing we kind of pride ourselves on, right? Like it's really funny, and I love to like talk about it because it's hilarious that like two guys who started with $0 in funding, well, 3K in funding. Noah and I each put in $1,500 to start BirdDog, but somehow we have literally the best signals data on the market when there's companies that have hundreds of millions of dollars and teams of like 300 engineers behind them. And I don't mean that to brag or to say it. I just think it's insane. It just shows you how like antiquated these old tools are and how they don't try to innovate and don't try to improve. Because like for an example, like we ran a case study against Clay, same accounts, same signals, right? Asking the same exact things. Is the company growing? Do they have funding? Do they have a new leader? Same batch of accounts. We found 15 times the number of results. 15 times. And so that's why, like, I mean, we've had people go on to like Clay or some of these other tools and say, hey, I'm just not finding any signals. They come to us and it's like the door goes from like just a crack of like, hey, we're seeing some signals like wide open. They're flooded with just everything that's going on out there. Um, and so I think that's a big part of our moat is the data and is the quality of the information we deliver because it's not just volume. It's like making sure it's really good volume that you can rely on, that you can send messages on.
Yeah. So it sounds like you're inundated with demos and you're growing fast. Are you Is it just yourself and Noah still? Have you got plans to expand? What's kind of next? Do you want to start ramping up on growth, or are you focusing more on the product? Like, what's next for you in terms of, 2026?
Yeah, as I think kind of towards 2026, I was just chatting with Noah about this, how we want to plan it out. I think we may bring on one person in 26. Um, our intention is to grow this thing very purposefully. And I think a lot of tools and a lot of systems, even a lot of startups just generally try to hire too fast, right? Like Noah and I by no means think we have kind of a perfectly built company that is going to just be a rinse and repeat machine. Stuff's just breaking all the time, right? We're trying to fix our demo process. We're trying to improve onboarding, right? There's so many levers we're trying to figure out and really try to tune in. And so I think a lot of times teams try to scale too quick, and now you're on this like shaky foundation trying to grow really fast, and now you have overhead, right? So for us, we're profitable. Noah and I can keep doing our thing. We have more than enough customers, more than enough demos. Like we can keep riding this thing for as long as we want. And so we're taking that kind of luxury to say, hey, let's build something that our customers love, right? Take in customer feedback, improve the product, make tweaks, make adjustments until we feel like we've hit the point where like that's really dialed in the specific thing we want to do, right? Like you said, like we don't do any messaging, we don't do any automations for the outbound. We just say, hey, here are your best accounts, here's all the intel, hands off. And so for that one thing, we're trying to work really hard at delivering the best kind of experience to do that. And so once we feel like we've kind of nailed that in, then we might look at pushing growth more. But even for us now, we're growing 50% per month. So like, do I need more? Like, do I need 70%, 100%? Maybe that would be great. But for us, it's enough. We're trying to grow very intentionally, deliver on our customers, spend more time there, making sure they're onboarded, making sure they have a great experience. And that's something we really try to kind of harp on is like our answer time, like, because everyone's in Slack with all the signals, like they'll ping us and say, hey, I need this, and this. And we're like, we try to get back to them in like 2 minutes. Like that's part of our thing. That's part of the experience I like our customers to have. And so trying to maintain that as we grow very thoughtfully.
Yeah. Oh, I feel exactly the same as you feel. I can sense it. Like the agency version is like we're just starting to. earn enough now where we can like bring people on. And my thoughts are I can bring people on, but I don't feel like an expert yet. And we can kind of build, or I can think, do you know what? I'm going to take this opportunity to not grow so fast, but become a true expert in GTM, and then I can know who to bring on at the right. Like I think it's, are you chasing growth at all costs, or are you chasing to become the best product and service that then gets referrals and grows like that? And I think I think I saw Nick from Hayreach, and he mentioned he had a he had some issues with customer support, and ever since then he's used that as a north star. And when your customers are really happy, that's growth in itself, right? It's just you got to go for that first, right? I think so.
Yeah, if you have happy customers, it solves every problem in your business, right? If you have happy customers, you don't need a sales team, you don't need a marketing team. You probably don't even need like a customer support team, right? If you can figure out how to make your customers happy and do that repeatably, you can do a lot with a very, very small team. And that's what we're seeing a lot of these new startups do, right? We're seeing $2 million in revenue per employee, $5 million in revenue per employee, 50, like it's crazy what they're getting up to. Whereas like if you look at like a Meta or a Google or something like that, it's like 250,000 in revenue per employee. So you're getting like crazy outsized returns on this kind of new way of building. And I think a lot of people are waking up to this and saying, hey, hold on, like if we don't chase growth at all costs, we build something that reaches product market fit or solution market fit really quickly, we don't have to deal with any of the problems that they're dealing with now. We can just accelerate right past them.
Yeah, 100%. I love that. You mentioned product market fit there. What do you think? Was there a moment where you felt it, and what do you think are like the ingredients to product market fit? Like, what should people be looking for?
Yeah, I would say like I don't even think we really even have it yet. And maybe I'm being way too critical on us. I think we have uh, problem market fit, right? We know the problem we're trying to solve. We know it's very painful. We know people get it, right? Obviously, because we can make posts just generally talking about it, it brings in demos because it's that painful to solve. And so I think we've seen hints of product market fit, right? Like we just got a batch of new features out in testing the validity of your signals and how they actually influence revenue. And while that's a bunch of mumbo jumbo, essentially what we can do is say, hey, here's the close rate on your BirdDog accounts. Here's the close rate before. Here's the average deal time. Here's the ACV, and just comparing across. And so, like our newest case study that's going to be coming out, the close rate on BirdDog accounts was 67%. The close rate on everything else was 22%. I we had to double check the data like 18 times because it didn't even make sense, right? It seems so absurd. ACVs were 25% higher, deal cycles were shorter, and the close rate was way higher. And so now for that company, that's a probably a $200 million company. It's a huge sales organization. The VP of sales was talking to us last week. He's like, "Hey, can you get this to me in a clean format? I'm putting this on the desk of the CEO. Like, we're changing our strategy because of the data you've delivered, and we're changing the way we're targeting our ICP because there were certain signals in their BirdDog account that were way outsized. Like searching for compliance notifications in this certain part of the website was like 5 times more likely to predict a closing of a deal, and they had never had that before. And so we've seen hints of it where you get into that kind of data and you're like, holy cow, like this is nuts. But I don't think we've reached that for every single client and every single kind of organization we're working with. And so it's about kind of figuring out like, hey, do we need to narrow in our ICP even more and be more targeted towards that type of organization? Or can we figure out a solution that works kind of across all these different personas that we have using our platform? And then that's kind of the debate we're in right now. And I think once we kind of unlock that, we're working on some new product updates for 26. So we'll have a new platform coming out with a bunch of this data kind of built in. And so I think a lot of that will start to help us kind of envision how close we are to product market fit. But I think we're getting closer, knock on wood.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. It sounds like like we were talking about this earlier, but and you mentioned about your goal is to become like like signal in the noise. That's what people are looking for. Um, and y- your signals, you're getting super specific. It's not kind of general. It comes back to being super specific, and that's why these companies are able to actually like move the needle a little bit. Super interesting. So let's move on to quick fire round then. Who do you look up to in sales, tech, and GTM?
So it's not someone that anyone would know because it's not on LinkedIn. It's a guy we met through cold DMing Michigan people. So the original way we got the product off the ground was we cold DM'd like 500 or 600 sales guys that went to Michigan, which is our college, and we're like, hey, we have an idea. Can you help us? And this one guy, I won't say his name, but he was like one of the top sales guys at a huge Fortune 500 company, is now transitioned to another Fortune 500 company. And Noah and I met him in Atlanta at a diner, and we were just hanging out, asking him every question on his side. This guy was crazy, and he had the craziest sales strategies that like no one in today's environment would do. He was trying to close a deal with a huge company, like it was just like a $500 million deal, like not giant deal. He went to every single conference that the economic buyer was at and just sat in the conference. And then at the seventh conference he went to, this guy walks into the bathroom, the buyer, and is like, hey, are you following me? Like, why are you at every single conference I'm at? And he's like, yeah, I've been trying to get in touch with you, blah, blah, blah. Closes the deal, right? Crazy kind of like ambition and strategy and thoughtfulness. And he was just super thoughtful, super helpful, and he's been a good mentor to Noah and I over the last kind of year that we've been in BirdDog. But that's who I look up to the most. He's an awesome guy and really does some really unique stuff.
I love that as well because normally I ask that question and people just rattle off some LinkedIn influencers and stuff like that. But you know, this is a guy who is a master of his craft, right? And
Yes.
that no,
We jokingly call him the Navy SEAL of sales because he's just so good at sales.
oh, I love it, mate. Love it. What hill are you willing to die on?
I think that most automated outbound is not worth your time. I think that's something I'm willing to die on because I get, and you probably get too, templated emails every single day, templated LinkedIn notifications every day. And I'm just like, I don't know who is responding to these, but I'm for sure not. Right. And I'm not to say like I don't respond to anyone's because like I have bought stuff off cold emails, but it's been very intentional pitches where they understand my problem and I feel like they're a valued contributor where I can say, hey, I can trust this person to understand my business and help me come up with a solution. Because most times when you're buying something, especially in a B2B setting, it's not just, hey, give me a credit card, it's a purchase, right? There's usually a lot of onboarding support strategy. Like I want the insights from their other customers. And so I have to feel like I can trust that as a buyer. And so those are the best kind of messages that I'm seeing. So I think there is a place and a time to do kind of mass outbound, but you have to view it as marketing and not sales. And that's a hill I'm willing to die on.
Yeah, because you can send automations with like value. And they're like you say, well, like your content example where people are kind of like moving along the funnel. But yeah, especially like the more expensive a product, like the more you want to have a human interaction. There's all this like relationship stuff involved as well.
Yep.
That's great. So do you read books? And if so, what's been your kind of favorite GTM or sales book that you've read?
I think well, I've read a lot of books, and particularly in college, I was like a huge nerd. Just like had stacks and stacks of. I like startup books, obviously, because like love startups, and never even thought I'd be in the sales space. Like love finance, love like investing. Like that's my like personal hobby, and we've kind of paralleled a lot of that into what we do with like predicting accounts and using it in data and strategy to actually win deals. Uh, so I've read a lot of startup books. The best startup book I've ever read is The Mom Test. That's what took us from our first broken startup to where we are today. I think the best sales book I've ever read was The Challenger Sale. I think that's obviously an all-time classic, but Noah and I weren't salespeople like even 13 months ago. We had no idea. I was telling you before we got on, like our close rate was 2%. 2% when for the first 6 months of the business, we closed like a handful of deals with hundreds of demos. And so we've learned how to sell over the kind of last 6, 8 months. And a lot of that's been kind of learning through listening to people, reading, and then just like practicing.
Yeah. Interesting. You mentioned about interest finance, background finance. Um, Alan Zhao at Warmly used to be a trader, and I remember if we were talking about Warmly or something at one point, and he started talking about back testing, and I was thinking, and you just mentioned that there, so I was saying like, is there anything you actually took from your finance background that's helped you? Um,
I'd say the
BirdDog.
I would say the biggest thing was just understanding how these deals are put together from the other side. So I think like most salespeople, most startup people don't actually get to see a lot of times how these deals work, right? Like what happens after you get off a demo call. No, like most people have never been involved in that process, but seeing how these internal kind of negotiations and the sales that goes on behind the scenes and how certain people on the team really like it and certain people on the team like try to shoot it down, seeing all how all that works has been very helpful for us in understanding kind of what we need to deliver on these calls to ensure that those conversations that happen offline and outside of our control go well. And so that's one of the biggest things. The other thing is just like how to run a company, right? Like, what are the internal processes you need? How do you structure things? How do you write a great email? Like, how do you communicate with people? What do they expect? And so I'd say like most founders probably jump into kind of the startup world too early without actually gaining the experience to build a real company and see how it works. And same thing for sales. Like it does help to actually see and sit on the other side of these deals where you can go, oh, like I didn't realize that person hated my product and now is trying to push really hard to shoot it down for some reason. And so I think that's been where it's most helpful on kind of the sales side, and then obviously just seeing how to run a company from the inside.
Yeah, do you know what? I was thinking I feel exactly the same as you. I was thinking the other day, like I used to work for a big 5,000 employees, but it was like connected to the government. It was like part government, part private. It was kind of a weird setup, but their ethos was to operate like a private company. So it had a lot of private, and like just being in there and going, okay, like you've got the person who's going to write it, then you've got the person who's going to sign it off, then you've got to go to finance, then procure, and you can just like understanding the internal processes and who's involved and the relationship stuff has helped so much with helping companies break into accounts because I can just go back to like that experience. So it sounds like a lot of the same things with yourself. What do you think is going to be the future of signals? Like, what's the next evolution?
I think where it gets into, and this is where we're trying to drive it, is going beyond, right? I think the first evolution of signals that we drove was going beyond the traditional champion tracking, new leader, that kind of stuff, funding rounds. I think most people have commoditized that, right? Like I don't even tell our clients to reach out on funding rounds anymore because every company is doing it. I get like I type funding in my LinkedIn post and get 50 messages. Like it's a recipe for disaster. So I think the first kind of evolution that we drove was the custom signals, right? And you're starting to see some companies start to do this, but getting these very nuanced, very deep kind of custom signals. And where we're pushing it in 26, where the next kind of third evolution, we're trying to get even further ahead of the competition, is that back testing to say, hey, these are the signals that are driving deals. Let's double down on these, remove the other ones, and just focus your whole sales process there. And so I think that's where the next evolution of this is going to become. And that's we're trying to turn this into like essentially a trading bot, but for your sales team to prioritize opportunities. So we're trying to take a lot of what we learned from kind of the finance world and apply it strategically and with math and statistics to turn that into a repeatable process for your sales team.
Wow. And you're hoping to launch this, is it in the new year?
Yeah, we're working on it now. So actually, in one of my other tabs I have up on my screen is the new platform we've been kind of working on.
Nice. And you like you say, you are doubling down on the best. What's been getting the most results for salespeople and kind of disregarding the rest?
Yep. Yep.
Awesome.
And that's I think how we can drive the outsized kind of benefits. So I think it's gonna be cool. It's gonna be a fun 26.
I love it. I love it. And where can people get in touch with you, follow you, connect with you, visit BirdDog? Where should they go?
Yeah, you can check us out on LinkedIn. It's just Jack Porter on LinkedIn. You'll see me pop up, or the website is getbirddog.ai.
Awesome. I'll put the links in the description. Jack, it's been awesome, mate. Thank you very much for coming on. It's been a blast and a bit of a signals 101 as well. So appreciate it.
Thank you, Joe.